Welcome to Why Every Supply Chain Professional Needs the APICS CSCP, the second webinar in our four-part series about the APICS certification program. Today I'd like to introduce Bob Collins. He's the APICS Senior Director of Professional Development. Bob has over 25 years of experience as a supply chain professional as both a practitioner and consultant, and has been on the APICS staff for over 10 years.
Thank you, Kim. I'm glad to be here, and I'm very happy to introduce our co-presenters, Lisa Salstrom and Corey Heinen, who will be joining me on the webinar today. Lisa is our Senior Director of Certification, and she has 13 years of Certification Association leadership experience, 8 years of it here at APICS. As Senior Director of Certification, Lisa is here to discuss how the APICS certification process works. Corey is a Director of Product Development with over 20 years of training and development product management experience. She acts as the CSCP Learning System Product Manager and has led our development efforts on the current CLTD learning system and the work we're doing now with the CPIM reconfig. So thank you and welcome, Lisa and Corey.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
So today we're going to cover information regarding the CSCP certification. We'll talk about why you should earn it, how to prepare and take the exam, and we'll go over some of the common questions asked about this credential. You know, there are hundreds of you attending today, which we're very excited about, and we're looking forward to answering any questions that you may have about these programs. We'll start by looking at the area of focus for CSCP, who it is designed for, and how the APICS certification can enhance your career. So CSCP is one of the 3 APICS certifications. You'll notice on the bottom of this slide a note to a blog posting and a link to that blog that covers the last webinar that we did on which APICS certification is right for you. Within that blog posting is a link to the original recorded presentation and additional information. So if you were not here for that webinar, you can get a hold of that information and get caught up. So today we're just going to talk about CSCP. Basically, when I'm asked which certification is right for an individual, we talk about where their focus is within their career, especially over the next 5 years. And if the focus in your career is outside the 4 walls of your company, if things like supply chain design or supplier management, 3PL, 4PL, transportation, customs, distribution channels, customer management, the flow of information, money, or materials between you and your supply chain partners, if these are areas of interest to you or that you're working in, then CSCP is the certification that you should consider first. So as I said, CSCP is kind of an external focus outside the 4 walls of your company. It also encompasses the end-to-end supply chain, from your suppliers' suppliers to your customers' customers. It has a broad reach across many topics, including globalization, IT enablement, logistics, service industry, and many more. Lisa, we've done some research on successful CSCP candidates. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure thing, Bob. So based on the demographics of individuals pursuing CSCP, these are the top 10 job titles of CSCP certification holders. There are certainly many more job titles applicable to CSCP, but these happen to be the most frequently reported. And industry acceptance of the CSCP includes achievement of some significant milestones, such as reaching over 21,000 designees in 94 countries and being a preferred or required job posting requirement by employers seeking supply chain professionals.
So here is a brief list of many of the companies that have held in-house CSCP courses over the last few years.
So Bob, why should a supply chain professional consider taking CSCP?
Well, that's a good question, Lisa. As a CSCP holder myself, I can tell you that supply chain is all about collaboration. CSCP helps professionals to understand and navigate the interactions and interdependencies across the functions within a company and across the companies within the supply chain. CSCP helps provide the skills to improve supply chain efficiency. Since there are many functions within the supply chain, the CSCP also helps you to see the big picture of the end-to-end supply chain, a broader picture than you would have from your current position within the supply chain. Finally, CSCP validates your knowledge and competency in supply chain, making you more valuable to your employer. Lisa, Gartner, the technology research company, recently completed a Chief Supply Chain Officer survey. Would you tell us about that survey and how the results tie into the CSCP?
Well, the Gartner's 2016 Chief Supply Chain Officer survey lists the top priority investments that provide companies with the most value. The list includes quality of product supply, sales and operations planning, and supply chain analytics. All of these major topics are in fact covered in the CSCP certification. So Bob, what are the benefits to earning the CSCP to individual professionals?
Well, Lisa, CSCP can help you streamline your company's supply chains, help you work in a global environment, and increase your earning potential. By the way, our research shows that currently CSCP holders earn, on average, 12% more than fellow professionals without the certification. Knowledge and skills learned include positively affecting lead times and inventory, two areas of vital interest to companies, to increase the efficiency of your ERP system, and to give you common terminology that will help you better communicate within and outside your company. So organizations with CSCPs can anticipate better alignment of their global supply chain with their business objectives, better productivity, collaboration, and innovation. Note that according to a PwC report from the Global Supply Chain Survey, companies can expect to achieve 70% higher performance when they focus on supply chain excellence. Lisa, APICS recently surveyed professionals who have earned their CSCP. One of our questions was around career enhancements. Would you share those results with us?
Absolutely. I think this is pretty significant data, actually. CSCP certified individuals indicate positive impacts to their career after becoming certified in the categories such as increased knowledge, recognition, special project assignments, salary increases, promotional opportunity, and bonuses. And it's important to note that over 83% of these respondents indicate that these positive benefits actually occurred within 1 year of becoming certified. As Bob said earlier, we are very happy to have Corey Heinen, who has helped us develop all of the APICS learning systems for several years now. So Corey, would you tell us a little bit about how candidates can prepare for the CSCP exam?
I'd be happy to, Lisa. So thanks everyone for joining us today. When you decide to take the CSCP exam, you want to make sure that you do not take that commitment lightly. If you follow a 4 simple step approach to make sure you're ready, you can be prepared for success. So as this screen shows, step number 1, you want to start by planning your studies. Really begin with the end in mind. You can first check your eligibility to make sure you're eligible to sit for it. You can even pick your exam date. But the main purpose of this is you want to create a study plan and assess your strengths and weaknesses. Step number 2 is that you want to study the reading materials. Focus on your weak areas and sections of the exam that are weighted higher than others. Step number 3 is apply what you've learned by taking practice quizzes, practice tests, learning activities, and using different flashcards and glossaries. Go back to step 2 on your difficult topics. You know, you really want to test yourself. Put yourself in exam mode by taking the CSCP practice exam emulation test. Make sure that you are ready before you move to step 4, which is take the exam. So let's go into these steps a little bit in more detail. So step 1, plan your studies. The number 1 question that I often receive from candidates is, how much time will it take to get ready for the exam, or how much time do I need to study? Now, I typically respond that every person learns differently and at a different pace. So study times can vary based on the number of years of experience you have, your expertise in supply chain, the study method that you choose to follow, and how quickly you can read and comprehend the topics. But it's a good idea to plan for about 100 hours of study time investment. We have surveyed past CSCP candidates that were successful in passing the exam, and 56% said that they studied 75 hours or more when they were preparing for the CSCP exam. We've also included study time estimates within the learning system to give you an idea of the length of time to spend if you're going through all of the different learning tools that are available. Those average study times with the learning system are based on the number of pages that you'll need to read, the number of online questions that are included, and the time it takes to review the other learning tools that I'd mentioned, like flashcards and learning activities. So if you create a customized learning plan using a smart study tool that's included in the learning system, it will help you work back from your chosen exam date, and that way you can take full advantage of all of the tools that are included in the prep materials. And one thing to note is that the learning system is also designed to support your chosen learning style. So the learning options you choose also will help you guide your study plan. Now, part of your study plan should be determining how to review the topics that will be tested on the exam. So the CSCP Courseware Committee develops a comprehensive study tool to help candidates prepare for the exam, which we call the learning system, and that's what I've been describing. We feel that it's the best way to study for the CSCP exam, and in fact, over 90% of users recommend the learning system for CSCP exam preparation. The learning system organizes over 150 different references into one comprehensive, easy-to-read source, and it incorporates reinforcement tools to make sure you're mastering that content. You'll also get a copy of the CSCP exam content manual within the learning system. Now, when you look at what's included in the learning system, it's comprised of 3 different modules covering all of the topics that are identified in the exam content manual, or ECM as we refer to it. Along with those reading materials, users are provided access to a web-based website with reinforcement materials that include interactive case studies, learning activities, flashcards, and practice tests. In all, there's over 1,200 practice questions included. Now, the APICS certification learning systems are designed to be used in a variety of different ways. So you can choose the delivery format that best matches your learning style and budget. The learning system is designed for those who wish to self-study, but if you prefer to study with others, there are many APICS partners that offer instructor-led courses and study groups using the learning system materials. I think this is a great option that provides the additional benefit of expert instruction. It gives you the opportunity for discussion with your peers as you review the materials. So you can check for a local chapter or partner in your area, and we've included at the bottom of this slide a link that you can visit on our website for more details. Lastly, the one thing I wanted to mention here is organizations who want to offer more than self-study to their employees and would like to take advantage of volume discounts can receive guidance from our corporate development group on how to organize those in-house classes. So let's move on to step number 2. Once you've determined your plan, your next step is to study the materials. So as I mentioned, the CSCP learning system covers the entire APICS CSCP exam content manual. The reading materials are organized into those 3 modules, and the modules are presented in both print and e-reader formats. So you can look at them in whatever format is going to work best for your study habits. The 3 modules are broken into 5 books. It's approximately about 1,100 pages of content. At the end of each section, there are progress check questions within the books. And as I said, it's organized information from more than 150 source references. The main thing about the books is that they're easy to read. The graphics are rich. They have lots of rooms for you to put your notes, and they also lay flat. So when you're studying, you can make your notes on each page. So this slide just shows what are the topics that you'll learn within the reading materials. The CSCP courseware aims to educate you. So the purpose of education is first to convey knowledge, and second, to give the learner a chance to apply that knowledge. The CSCP learning system is designed to help you prepare for the exam, as well as provide essential supply chain knowledge that you can apply at work today. The main thing with this is it's a great reference tool that you can use in your day-to-day job. So this is just a list of some of the topics that you'll see covered in the materials. So let's move on to step number 3. So step 3, reinforcing the concepts. So as you read through the materials, you're going to want to make sure that you are understanding and mastering those concepts. The learning system includes an online component, as I'd mentioned, that has quizzes and activities for each of the modules, so you know if you are understanding and mastering each of those items. The quiz questions provide immediate feedback after you answer each question. So you'll be able to see if you've answered it correctly or incorrectly, and also get feedback rationale. So it reinforces the answer, and it guides you back to the reading materials for additional study if you need it. The system also is going to track your progress through these tools. So you can see if there are areas of strengths and weaknesses for you, and then you can focus on the chapters that you'll need additional review. So I'm going to show you a couple screenshots of what the online component looks like. It's organized by module. So each module includes access to that electronic version of the reading materials. You can click to get into glossary and flashcards to practice key terminology for that module. There are online quizzes that are organized by section and chapter. And there are learning activities or case studies, and those items let you apply the concepts in real-world examples. The last thing, and probably the most important piece that we always hear from participants, and we actually posed a question to you in the registration form about which exam resource you were most interested in. The majority of you were most interested in the practice tests. So this is something that's included when you purchase the learning system. We have 2 different practice exams within the learning system. They allow you to experience the format and the functionality of taking the real computer-based CSCP exam. It's a timed exam. It's going to show you if you're answering questions in the time allotted that you'll have when you go to the real testing center. You can flag questions. So if there's something that you want to return to after you've completed the exam, you can go back to those questions. We've included 2 different practice exams. The first one is made up of retired exam questions. So these were real questions that were used on past CSCP tests. So you can see the types of questions that you can expect to see on the real exam. And the second practice exam is included with exam-like questions. So these are written by the same committee that writes the questions on the CSCP exam. And the one thing with the practice exams are that you can see the results for each of those questions after you take the test. So if these resources seem too basic, remember it can really help to calm the nerves if you know what to expect on exam day. And you can test your retention and your ability to apply the concepts through the quizzes and the case studies. It's very important.
Corey, I'd like to stress that as well. A lot of candidates will come to us and say, well, I just don't feel ready to take the exam. And yet, if they'll go through these practice exams toward the end of their preparation, they feel much more comfortable because they are designed very similar to what they'll experience in the actual exam center. The other thing that I'd like to point out to them is that the quizzes and the final exams are really different types of questions, and there's a reason for that. The actual APICS exam is an application exam. The actual APICS exam wants to know, can you apply this body of knowledge? And the practice exams, the 2 practice exams you mentioned, are just like the APICS exam. So they are basically application questions. Can you apply this? The quizzes that you take after reading each section of the books, however, are knowledge questions. They're primarily to determine whether you understood what you read, not whether you can apply it. So what I've found candidates find very helpful is understanding that when they go into the actual APICS exam, they're going to get application questions and not knowledge questions. And this also, I've found, helps them to be more comfortable when they actually sit down for the exam.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bob. We want to make sure people are understanding that knowledge, but then also being able to apply it so that they know what to prepare for when they sit for the real exam. Now, I've also included some extra study tips, things to remember while you're preparing for the CSCP exam. First being that there are many ways to successfully study for the exam. So you want to choose the method that's best suited for your learning style, whether it's self-study, instructor-led, or study groups. Secondly, create a plan. So start by setting your exam date and commit to it. This will really help to avoid procrastination. You want to identify your strengths and weaknesses on the exam topics. So you need to make sure that you're familiar with the ECM to make sure you're studying each of these topics. And as I mentioned, the learning system quizzes help you identify what areas you should focus on for your additional study. Make sure that when you're going through the materials, you go beyond memorizing. So the exam is not just about recalling knowledge items, as we've mentioned. It will also ask you to apply those concepts. So make sure that you first understand them and use the learning activities and the final practice exams in the learning system to help you apply that knowledge. The learning system also includes an online video, and it's a video that's narrated by APICS instructor Liesl Smith. It's called The Techniques for Successfully Taking APICS Exams. So as I mentioned, it's included within the learning system, or you can also purchase it separately on Shop APICS. And in this video, Liesl shares different techniques to achieve the highest score possible on your exam. She provides tips for non-native English language speakers and really just gives you helpful tips to kind of ease that test anxiety. And finally, the best way to ease test anxiety is really know what to expect on exam day. So knowing where the test center is located, what the process will be when you get there, and what to expect in a test format functionality will help to make sure that you're ready. Really, in helping you with these last items, we've included additional resources for you to prepare on the exam day. So, Lisa, there are a few more resources that CSCP exam candidates might be interested in. Could you talk about each of those?
Certainly, and as you said, we do have a variety of resources available for individuals to prepare. Again, I'd like to stress that the APICS CSCP exam content manual is the guide to the CSCP exam and outlines the CSCP tested body of knowledge. This should be your primary go-to knowledge resource. The CSCP exam content manual is provided with each learning system, or it can be ordered as a standalone product directly from APICS. Additionally, the APICS exam handbook provides information on the testing process and how to find a test center, among other very valuable information on how to prepare for test day. The APICS Dictionary and Learn It app is the essential supply chain reference, and it's free to members. The app has more than 4,500 terms from the dictionary and includes flashcards and a word of the day. There are also test-taking tips and an instructional video for test-taking best practices available on the APICS website. So finally, to step 4, taking the actual exam. So exams are delivered on demand worldwide at Pearson VUE test centers. Individuals will immediately receive their score at the test center after completing the exam and will know if they passed or failed. The exam is one 3.5-hour, 150-question test. I suggest scheduling the exam as soon as you begin your training and learning system instruction to ensure a higher level of success in meeting your certification objectives. When you have that milestone ahead of you, you tend to do whatever it takes to achieve that milestone. And in general, we found that candidates who test within 3 months of completing their instruction have a much higher success rate in passing the exam. All questions are based on the information contained in the list of ECM references. This is one of the many ways that APICS ensures the certification reflects industry-accepted best practices. When taking the exam, people generally get tripped up when they don't read the question properly. So take time to make sure you have a correct understanding before narrowing down the possible answers. This testing strategy, among others listed here, is covered in the Liesel video that Corey mentioned earlier. With computer-based testing, you can mark the questions you are unsure of and revisit those questions after you've finished all of the others to see if something may have jogged your memory along the way. If not, go back and try to reason through the answer. Eliminate the answers that you know are wrong, and that usually leaves you about 2 possible answers to choose from. Read the question again carefully, and then take your best shot. Earlier, Bob mentioned eligibility requirements in order to take the CSCP exam. So again, beginning with the end in mind, by filling out an eligibility application, this is your first step to proceeding toward a certification. The application is free and easy, and your approval will never expire. Eligibility applications must be received 2 weeks prior to the day that you plan to register for the exam. You will receive notification of your eligibility almost immediately after completing the application, unless, of course, you are flagged for an audit. Also, people often ask what APICS means by supply chain related business experience. Related business experience is work that directly connects to some aspect of the supply chain, and we've listed a few of these areas on this slide as examples. Refer to apics.org www.apix.org/CSCP for additional information. And now some helpful tips for a successful test day experience. As I previously mentioned, we have a free test taking tip information guide which you can download from the APICS website that covers these points and much more. You can also find detailed exam day preparation information in the exam handbook. It is really helpful to reduce any stress-generating situations immediately prior to taking your test. So being prepared on the process and arriving early will set you up for success that day. And again, as a reminder, you will also receive your pass-fail results immediately at the test center once you complete your exam and you submit it for scoring. So when you pass the exam, and I like to think positively about that, you will receive an email that includes instructions on how to download or purchase your certificate and upload your information into LinkedIn. Your name will also appear in the APICS credential verification search results as having an active CSCP certification, of course, for as long as you maintain your certification. Credential verification is a service that elevates the credibility of APICS credentials. Anyone can look up an individual's CPIM, CFPIM, CERM, of course, which is no longer offered, or CSCP certification status on this page. The page is located at apix.org/verification. To maintain the CSCP certification, individuals are required to pursue activities to support ongoing professional development over a 5-year period. Details on this program are listed in the certification maintenance bulletins.
So before we get to our Q&A session, let's review a few common questions that candidates often have. The first is typically, what does it cost? So here are the costs for the learning system and the exam. You can see that it pays to become an APICS Plus member before purchasing either the exam system or the exam itself. Many of our U.S. chapters and international partners offer CSCP classes. Those prices, however, are set by the partner and not by APICS, and the price will vary by partner, so they're not listed here. You also want to check to see if the partner is including the learning system and or the exam in the cost of their course. Some partners do, some partners don't. You may also be asking yourself, but will it really help my career? Efficiencies learned through CSCP certification can help reduce costs and increase profits, getting you noticed by senior management, in a good way, of course. In addition, you will become more valuable and show that you understand some of the broader concepts of end-to-end supply chain. So why invest money getting the CSCP? It's a relatively small investment now, but will have long-term gains. Again, research shows that certified professionals earn about 12% more on average than their certified peers, well worth the $2,000 to $3,000 initial investment. So how can I find the money to purchase the learning system and the exam in order to earn my CSCP? You know, even some great investments need a little seed money to start, and here are some of the key ways that many of our exam candidates get the funds they need to prepare for the CSCP exam. It might include corporate tuition reimbursement. Corporate training organizations often have funds for these types of programs. You may want to check to see if there are tax breaks for education in your locality. And many localities also have job training programs or military benefits that will help offset the costs of the CSCP program. Certainly it's worth investigating. So finally, how do I convince my boss to support my certification goals? We've developed a Getting Started toolkit to help you get the conversation started. So visit the link that's listed here on the page to download these resources. Corey, the second biggest concern we hear from potential candidates after how to pay for the program is how to find time to study and take the exam. I think you might have some advice for these folks.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do, Bob. So, you know, there is rarely a perfect time to commit for earning a certification. We all have busy lives and not enough time for everything that we want to accomplish. So you need to make it a priority. But remember, it doesn't need to take over your entire life. So make a realistic study plan that works for your life. Keep these considerations in mind so you can plan for the exam. Determine the amount of time you need to study. So we recommend a minimum of 75 hours to prepare for the CSCP exam. It's also best to take the exam within 3 months of completing the learning system. Remember, the longer you wait, the more you will forget. And then use the Smart Study tool provided in the learning system. After you take the pretest, you will determine the most important exam topics that you need to focus on and those that are the most difficult for you so that you don't have to waste valuable study time. And the learning system is made for busy professionals, so it allows you to use your time wisely to get you ready for exam day.
Now, if you order an individual copy of the APICS CSCP learning system between April 6th and April 20th of this year, 2017, and provide the discount code CSCP17 at checkout, you will save $50. If you're an APICS member, and you really should be, the price will drop from $9.95 to $9.45. If you aren't a member, and why wouldn't you be, the price will drop from $13.40 to $12.90. You can order online at learncscp.com/CSCP17 or call the number on this slide. Lisa, can you remind our candidates about the eligibility requirements and let them know how they could apply today?
I would love to, Bob. So we recommend that you apply now for eligibility. It's free, never expires, and allows you to easily begin the first step in your journey to becoming CSCP certified. Again, you must meet one of the criteria listed here on the slide to meet the requirements. So check the chat box now. We just sent all attendees the eligibility link. Copy and paste it into your browser, log on to the APICS website, and complete the application process, which shouldn't take more than a minute to finish. It's really that simple. You'll receive notification of your eligibility status almost immediately after your submission, unless, of course, you're flagged for audit. And if you do this now, you may become CSCP eligible by the time the webinar ends, and you're done with the first step of the process.
All right. And just a reminder, that is in the chat box, not in the question box that many of you have been using up to this point. So, as promised, we did leave time for question and answers. And we will be reviewing this material. I do want to remind you, many of you have figured it out, thank you, to select the question tab on the toolbar on the right side of your screen and enter your question and send and click send. And a copy of this webinar recording and a copy of all of the questions and answers will be available on our website within a week after this this webinar. So if you don't get your questions answered today, they will be in a document that we've posted with this webinar recording. We'd love to answer all your questions, but we're getting a bunch of them, which is great. So let's take a look and see what we've got here. Someone mentioned about the percentages. They did the percentages in their head about the number of designees compared to the number of exams administered. That's interesting. The numbers they came up with, around 65% pass rate, is probably close. Some of those people may have taken the exam twice before they passed it. What I want to really emphasize here, though, is that this is a genuine certification. It is not a giveaway. It is not necessarily easy. However, the materials that we've prepared in order to help you prepare for this exam are the best that we can prepare, and the people that have used it have been particularly successful, and we encourage you to do that.
Yep.
If everybody could get the CSCP by walking in and plunking down a few bucks and taking a very easy exam, the certification would not actually be worth much out in the marketplace.
Exactly.
And
I'd like to stress as well, and we've said this a number of times in the recording, that it's really important to try and test as soon as you complete your instruction, because then that's when the information is still fresh in your mind. And the longer you delay it, the more that you forget.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very important to do it pretty quickly. For the APICS CSCP, is this one master exam, or are there module exams that must be passed?
There is one 150 question, 3.5-hour exam. Once you pass that exam, you become CSCP certified. Now, the learning system, I believe, is broken up into specific sections to help understand and focus specific knowledge areas. But when you're taking the exam, that's one exam.
So, Corey, I believe that the learning system sections actually reflect what's in the exam content manual?
Correct, yes. So we follow all of the topics that have been identified in that exam content manual, and that's how we've organized the learning system. So if you're using that ECM as your guide, you will be able to see all of those different topics elaborated within the different books. Now, I also see that there's a couple other questions about the learning system, and I just want to make sure that I clarify what's included. When you purchase a learning system, you are going to get two components. You get the reading materials, and those reading materials are available in both print and electronic format. So you get both as part of your purchase. You also get access as the second component to the online component, and those are all of those reinforcement tools. So the practice quizzes, the glossary, the flashcard items, those are all included as well. So if you purchase the learning system, you are going to get both of those components with your purchase.
Very good. This is an interesting question. I would like to start my path to get my supply chain certification. I don't have supply chain experience. I'm unemployed and graduated on 2015. How do you think it should be my first step, or what should be my first step? You know, that's an interesting question. There are a lot of supply chain positions, and supply chain as a profession is growing in today's market. Because you have graduated, if you have a bachelor's degree, you are eligible to apply for the CSCP. You might want to spend a little more time studying it than the average person, just because you're not as familiar with it. But you certainly would be able to pass the exam if you studied appropriately. Then what you're able to do when you go talk to potential employers, you're able to show them not only that you finished your degree, but that your willingness to improve yourself by actually going after an appropriate certification that can be a help to them will make a big difference. I used to be a practitioner and a consultant before joining the staff here. I had the CPIM and the CSCP very early on in both cases, and having those certifications may be much more marketable in the job force. Many companies recognize these certifications and recognize the amount of work that you put into it and the knowledge that's validated by these exams.
And I think that's a really good point, because I think we took a look at several months ago. At any given point in time, the job postings that are on either Career or Monster for supply chain jobs, there were over about 2,500 or 3,000 jobs that either required or recommended APICS certification, CSCP being one of them. So that really gives individuals a leg up in the job market.
And we've seen that a lot with our young professionals as well. If a person has passed CERM module exams in the past, could that count towards CSCP? I'm sorry, I'm also CERM certified, but I had to go take the CSCP exam anyway. It's a different exam, and so you do have to take that exam. So let me pull this down a little bit farther. We've got a lot of great questions. I know we're going to have trouble getting to them all, but we will answer them afterwards in the document.
I see a few more about the learning system, so I'll answer those. One question is about flashcards, and can you organize the flashcards into different categories? So the flashcards are provided electronically, and they're organized by module. So you'll see all of the key terms and can practice those key terms on a module-by-module basis. In the Online Resource Center, we also give access to printable flashcards. So if you wanted to make your own customized deck and organize them into, these are the ones that I've mastered, these are the ones I need more time with, you can print out those flashcards and make your own customized decks as well. There's also another question about the different practice exams within the learning system. And all of the quizzes that are included in the online component, there's no limitation of how many times you can go through those and complete them. You can take them multiple times if you'd like. Each time you take a quiz, the system is going to scramble the questions and scramble the answer options. So you can take them more than once, and you can take them in any order that you choose. So if you've identified strengths and weaknesses, you can jump right to an area of focus and spend your time going through those.
So I'll take a question that asks, can you explain the scoring of the test thoroughly? This is Lisa. And I don't believe we have enough time on this call to actually go into a thorough explanation of what we use for scoring the exam, which is called scaled scoring. But I can tell you that you need a 300 or better to pass the exam. And each question on the exam is worth 1 point, and it's either right or wrong. And so I can refer individuals, if you want to learn more about the scaled scoring process, we actually have a detailed FAQ on the website where you can really understand a lot more about what goes into scaled scoring and how that works for a certification exam process.
I do want to point out, you mentioned each question has either a right or wrong answer, and but if you start adding the points up, you're going to come to 150 instead of 300. So each question is not worth 2 points.
Correct.
Or 3 points or 4 points. The questions, again, the scaled scoring is what you need to understand.
Right.
And they have been verified through statistics as to which questions are harder than others and so on and so forth. But just go in, do your best. The computer knows what it's doing and will give you a response. And I'm sure everybody on this call will pass the first time through. So someone asked about paying monthly. I'm sorry, we don't do that. Someone else asked about if we choose the online learning system, will they also receive the printed materials? Actually, the learning system is the learning system, and it contains 2 components. One is the printed materials, and the other is the online material that accompanies the printed materials. So if you buy the learning system, you got it all.
So there's a couple of questions about what's allowed during the test administration at Pearson VUE. And again, I would refer you to the exam handbook for details on that. But Pearson VUE is very vigilant in ensuring that individuals only take into the exam center what they absolutely need to take the exam. So you'll have an on-screen calculator, for example. And individuals outside of North America who English is a second language is allowed an English to native language translation, what we call a dictionary, but it should not have any definition of terms in there. It's merely a word-to-word comparison from English to native language, and that is allowed for candidates testing outside of North America.
That's good. Someone mentioned you also might want to let them know that they won't allow you to bring in gum or candy,
Right.
watches, phones.
Yes.
They have a place to lock all that stuff up. But they will provide you with something for you to take temporary notes while you're in there. So it works pretty well. If you choose to complete the CSCP and then later decide to do the CPIM, does that streamline the CPIM at all, or should you spend more time up front determining which one you want? It doesn't really streamline the process. I would think very carefully about which one you want to start with. Many APICS members and former members, myself included as a member, have both certifications. They focus in different areas. Again, I refer you back to which certification is right for me. Recording that we did a few weeks ago. But you know, determine which one and get started. Now, the nice thing is once you've done one of the APICS exams, you have a better feel for what you're expected in the other APICS exams, and so you're more comfortable when you go in. That'll help. Several people have also been asking about, you know, are there classes near me? And there may be. And what we encourage you to do is to go to the apics.org website, apics.org, and on the main page you'll see a graphic for learning opportunities. So click on the learning opportunities. You may need to put in your zip code or other identifying information as to what country you're in, that and so forth. And it will pull up a list of those partners closest to you that are offering classes. So that's the quickest way to find out if there are any classes near you. So Lisa, how different year to year are the program tests? If I have 2016, will I still have most of the information?
Well, we encourage you, if you're taking an exam in 2017, I know we do minor updates to the learning system to correspond with any updates in that exam. So we encourage you to plan your studies accordingly and making sure you have the most up-to-date information that corresponds to the exam and the year that you are taking the exam. When we generally do a major content update, we market that and we communicate to the market quite a bit ahead of time, and that is usually coordinated when we do a job task analysis, which is a very large industry research project, to ensure that our certification meets industry current market trends and is continually updated to reflect on the latest and greatest in the industry. We generally do that every 3 to 5 years.
Very good. This one made me cringe, actually. I've got my CSCP certification in June 2006, but haven't taken the steps to maintain it. What are my options? I'm sorry, friend. You need to take the CSCP again. The way the maintenance works, you need to maintain every 5 years. If you do not maintain within the 5 years, you have another 5 years suspension, but you can make up the original 5 years plus the years you're missing.
Right.
And you can get back up to speed after 10 years. But once the 10-year mark is hit, it's pretty much done.
Right.
It's expired and you need to start again if that's what you want to do. So all the more reason to keep up with the certification maintenance. And it becomes very, very important. How much math is there in the CSCP? Corey?
Sure. Well, we do cover some financial statement information, so there are some math items that are covered, but I would say it's not significant. There's not a number of different things. We'll walk through some of the supply chain cost analysis pieces that go along with it. So they are explained with examples within the learning system and sample resources that you can download, which makes it much easier to understand and comprehend those pieces.
Right. So here's another one for you, Corey. Is there a period to complete the study? I mean, from the moment of purchasing the materials till I get the exam. I may be ready in 1 year. Is this okay?
Sure, yes. And actually, we give you online access to that, the web-based reinforcement tools for 12 months from your date of purchase. So you will have access to all of those quizzes online and access to the electronic versions of the reading materials for that 12-month period. And then you'll also have, the printed books that you get to keep and use as your references at work moving forward.
Very good. Lisa, are the exam questions pulled directly from the text? I'm assuming they mean the learning system text.
Or it could be the reference material as well. In either case, exam questions are not directly pulled from either the learning system or the reference text. However, the reference texts are used as the basis for writing the exams, and we pull the concepts. So it's important that individuals familiarize themselves with the concepts that are covered in the reference text that are listed again in the exam content manual, the ECM. And the learning system helps prepare individuals around those concepts that will be tested. But for example, if you see a particular table in a textbook, you're very likely not going to see that exact same table in the exam. What we are testing on is an understanding on how to apply the concepts.
All right. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for questions today. As I said, we will consolidate the questions we received today and answer them all in a Q&A document that will be posted with this webinar on apics.org. You will receive an email with the links, and feel free to share these links with your colleagues, boss, or other decision makers at your company. Again, a few more places that you may want to go to learn more about the CSCP would include you can take a demo of the CSCP learning system here at learncscp.com/free-demo. You can find the instructor-facilitated courses that were asked about earlier in 2 different places on the web, both at LearnCSCP and at apics.org, as well as additional information that will be of help to you. I want to remind you this was the second of a 4 webinar series. The next webinar coming up is why every logistics professional needs the APICS CLTD on Wednesday, April 19th, and then we'll finish with why you need the APICS CPIM to master the fundamentals in business on May 4th. Looking forward to these webinars as well. Thank you for attending today and for sending us your questions and comments. Your feedback helps us refine our programs to better address your needs. We really appreciate your comments. Have a great day. All content and materials included in this online event are the property of APICS and are protected by the United States and international copyright laws. All rights are reserved. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for participating.